As I travel all year long through the Tennessee Valley, from the Cumberland Mountain Range, Clinch Mountains, so much history here. Even down into the Smokies, so much history to be told. And it's laying everywhere, but it's quickly going away. But you travel down these main roads, they bypassed all the old history. It's so convenient now just to go through. Beautiful road, but you gotta get off the beaten path on these back roads, the old original roads. And you get to see some of the old stuff that you just don't see anymore. How our people used to live years ago. How they struggled in these old hills and hollers, mountains, this countryside, way before TVA come in here. Had no electricity or nothing. But they survived. From farming, mining, logging, and they raised big families too. Big families. Some places you can't even see anymore. They're just grown up and forgotten about. Even the places they work, raised their livestock, they're just falling down and going away. History is slowly leaving this country. You think of how hard a life they had it back then. It was a simple life. It just required hard work. But they done it generation after generation. And they raised their kids that way too. Their whole family helped out. That's why they had large families on these farms. Everybody helped each other. And these families, I know they struggled, but they helped each other, and they made it. And you see the old places where they used to go to school, way back before the modern times, little old one-room schoolhouses. Some places you can't even recognize them. It's growed up and forgotten about. Old places like this. And I like to check them out. But I won't go in them. Some of them are just unsafe to go in. And if you don't got permission, I absolutely won't go in. But some of them they take care of. Try to preserve them for the future generations to see. Here's a beautiful old schoolhouse. This is in Kodak, Tennessee. Here's one on Boyd's Creek. Beautiful old schoolhouses. Now here's one that I don't know if it's a church or a school. I believe it's a school. It's a beautiful old rock, but it's neglected, forgotten about. You can walk right up to it, look at the rock work on it, the stone. It was a beautiful place at one time. A lot of hard work went into making this one. But it's too unsafe to walk into some of these places. You can see another view of it from the side. It was a beautiful place at one time. And inside, you can't walk on the floors, the ceiling's falling in. It's unsafe to be in these old places. They're slowly going away. Here's one still preserved pretty good. This one's in Sharp's Chapel, down next to Steiner's side of the Powell side of Sharp's Chapel. And the old stores I used to go to, the old mom and pops, I remember them growing up, and they're still around in certain places, but there's just a handful of them left. These were good, God-fearing people run these little stores. Some of them are still operating. Here's one, but it happened to be closed when I was there. There's just a handful of them left. Here's one around Newmarket, Piedmont. It's still going strong. Been there a long time. These little old stores, they serve the communities all across these mountains, these Appalachias, and the country. But they all look like this now, most of them. There's just a handful of them left. Old places like this. Here's an old store, just abandoned, junked up. Here's one I can remember back in the 70s stopping and getting gas at. But it's long gone now, been shut down many a years. Here's one along 25W, Jefferson County. Just an old place, the highways bypassed it by. A lot of them, the old places like this, they're lucky if they're still standing. The stories they could tell, the people that's come and gone. And the old churches, there's a few of them you see still standing, but they've not rebuilt, tore the old ones down. But there's a few of the old churches, just for reminders, souvenir pieces. Here's one down through Powell Valley, the little one-room church. You get off these back roads, this is where you gotta find your history at. Not on them main fireways, them highways and interstates. The old country road. And you run into stuff like this. Old houses, abandoned. And you wonder, well, what family lived there? What memories is there? What stories to be told? But they're all but falling down. Most of them are just tore down. Nature's took them back. You see places like this. This is an old farmhouse, abandoned, about forgotten about, just falling down. The stories and the families that's raised here, and the histories went by, the good times and the bad times. Old houses. They built these old houses to last. This old home is right beside the Sharp's Chapel post office. An old home. This one, the only one guarding this one is the cattle. Some places I got permission, some I don't. It's just getting the time to get in them. But I love the old history. Some places, it's all but fell down. Gotten about and gone. Beautiful old homes, old country homes. Most of them look like this now, just a foundation. They've either tore them down or they burnt down. burnt down and nothing but the old chimneys left. You wonder what happened. What story can they tell? In these old places, these old buildings you see out in the back country. Now I revisited an old place that I stayed at for fishing. It's a fishing camp resort. Back in 1980, that's 43 years ago. Steiner's Fishing Camp. You rented cabins. I could remember this. When my kids were little old babies, we rented here and stayed for a week in the summer while we fished. Had its own little swimming pool too. Little cabins that you rent. It was a beautiful place. It's still here. This swimming pool is fed by a spring, and it's 58 degrees, the coldest pool I ever been in my life. It was freezing. But at least it's still standing. But for how long? It's abandoned. All that guards it is the cattle. Curious cattle. And while I'm down here on the Steiners, on the Powell side of Sharp's Chapel, I thought I'd go down here to the ferry. I've been down to this ferry 5 or 6 times. No one there. It never runs when I'm there. I want to get on it, show it to you. And these old graveyards, I explore a lot of them, and I find a lot of graveyards. Most of them are so old, there's not no markings on none of the gravestones. They're just rocks. And some don't have no markers at all, just sunken places in the ground. Some of them are so growed up, nature's taking them back. They're hard to find. Hard to find. And I know these old people and their children, they had a hard time. No doctors, no modern medicine, and a lot of them didn't live. You can see that everywhere I go in these old graveyards. Some are well remembered, and some are not. This is a well-kept graveyard here, but you can see all the little baby headstones here. Most is not marked at all. Lucky they got a rock on. So sad. And I get off the beaten path, way off the beaten path, and I find a really old history. Here's the side of an old cabin, what's left of an old limestone rock chimney. And I love to find this old history. You just don't know the hard times that these people had back in these old hollers and mountains. And they're all but forgotten. And I'm just trying to remember their history so they're not forgotten in the future generations of how our people, where we came from, and how we suffered here. Now this old place, this country is changing so quick. Seems like everybody from up north of the big cities wants to retire down here in Tennessee. And they're making nothing but subdivision, land development, and all of our history is going away. I just want it to be remembered. So I hope y'all enjoy these little videos. I try to tell a piece of Appalachia at a time, and I can't possibly cover it all. So I want to thank y'all for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.